When we think of Krishna, we usually picture a divine figure, right? The flute-playing god, the one who gives us cosmic wisdom. But what if there's another layer to the story? What if, buried underneath all that theology, is the memory of a brilliant political strategist, a person navigating the absolute collapse of an entire age? Okay, let's dive into this. So, this is the big question, isn't it? God or myth? For centuries, that's been the debate, and it usually forces us to pick a side. But what if that simple choice is actually what's been holding us back from a much more interesting historical investigation? I mean, you've got one camp that says, nope, he's pure fiction, a total myth. And on the other side, you have the devotional view, where every single story is taken as literal, divine truth. But what if both of those extremes are missing the point? The perspective we're going to explore here, well, it suggests a far more fascinating approach. So this is the real question that's going to guide our whole explainer. We're not getting bogged down in if he existed. Instead, we're asking something else. What kind of real person, what kind of historical figure could have been so impactful that the memory of them became this powerful, this divine? To even begin to answer that, we have to start by recontextualizing him. We need to pull Krishna away from the center of imperial power and put him where the historical clues suggest he actually operated, out on the periphery. And right away, you see this huge contrast. The Kuru heartland, that's the center of the whole conflict, it was rigid, centralized, totally obsessed with lineage and ancient rituals. But Krishna, he came from the western peripheries, a world of these independent clan confederacies, like his own people, the Yadavas. It was a completely different political universe. Now, think about what this environment creates in a leader. Krishna's world was just more fluid. The Yadavas were politically independent, they were well connected through trade, and they were mobile. And this is crucial. They weren't nearly as tied to that strict, ritual-based power structure of the Kurus. This kind of political ecology is bound to shape a very, very different kind of strategist. So with that background, we can start to understand Krishna's really unique source of power. See, it wasn't based on a crown or some ancient claim to a throne. It was built on something way more flexible and, honestly, way more modern: strategic influence. We so often hear that Krishna refused to fight in the war out of some kind of divine humility or modesty. But this perspective just flips that on its head. It argues it wasn't modesty at all. It was a brilliant political move. By taking himself out of the running for the throne, he could become something much more powerful, a broker between states, a kind of supra-regional influencer. And this is just perfectly illustrated by that famous offer he makes right before the war. He gives the two sides a choice. You can have my powerful army, or you can have me, completely unarmed. Now, this wasn't just a test of faith, it was a political masterstroke. The Pandavas chose Krishna's strategic mind over his military muscle, and that choice reveals everything about where the true power really was. It was foresight over force. This quote just nails it. He becomes the mind of the war, not its muscle. His role as Arjuna's charioteer, it wasn't just about driving a chariot. It put him at the very heart of the conflict, in the command center, letting him exert constant strategic influence without ever needing to hold a weapon or a title. He became the architect of victory, not just a soldier in it. All right, this brings us to what might just be the most compelling argument for his historicity, and it's probably not what you'd expect. It's not his perfection that feels real, it's his imperfection. It's his moral complexity that truly feels like the memory of a real-life leader.
I mean, the epic is absolutely filled with these moments. Krishna openly endorses deception to defeat legendary generals like Bhishma and Drona. He consistently accepts moral compromises if it means achieving a strategic victory. He prioritizes the outcome, the end result, over sticking to some rigid, ritualistic code of honor in warfare.
And right here, this is the key distinction. Purely mythological gods are usually paragons of virtue, right? They're morally absolute, black and white. But real historical leaders, especially ones navigating a crisis, they're forced to be ethically flexible. They live in the gray areas. They make the hard choices. Krishna's moral ambiguity feels less like a god and a lot more like pure Iron Age political realism. This is also a critical reframing of his entire purpose. Krishna's role wasn't to save the old Kuru order. He was there to manage its inevitable collapse. He isn't a restorer trying to put things back the way they were. He's a transitional figure, someone who sees the old world as ending and is actively shaping what comes next, even if that means presiding over its total destruction.
So if he was a historical strategist, how did he end up becoming a god? This final section really breaks down that likely process, that path from a man who shaped history to a memory that became divine.
And this is a pattern we see across so many cultures. It starts with a real person who made a huge impact. Then, over centuries, their story gets told and retold, their actions get idealized, their strategic wisdom turns into sacred philosophy, and eventually, the figure is elevated into a full-blown cosmic divine being. It's a journey.
So why did this particular memory last? Why did it grow so powerful? Well, it seems the figure that was remembered was fundamentally accessible. He stood apart from the rigid, exclusive rituals of the powerful elites, which made him relatable to everyday people. The memory itself wove together politics, ethics, and emotion, and it was incredibly adaptable, which allowed it to be embraced and reshaped by countless different traditions over time. At the end of the day, this viewpoint suggests the Mahabharata isn't just a story about a god intervening in human affairs. It's a profound, powerful memory of a real political crisis, the literal end of an era. And it's a testament to the brilliant, morally complex kind of mind that's required to navigate that kind of collapse. So the question isn't just who Krishna was, but what his enduring memory tells us about power, strategy, and the very nature of history itself.